For most of history, moving goods across the world was slow, expensive, and unpredictable. Ships carried cargo in thousands of individual pieces, crates, barrels, bags, boxes. Every item had to be loaded by hand, lifted onto the ship, stacked carefully, and then unloaded the same way at the other end. And this process was called break bulk shipping, and it dominated global trade for centuries. It was labor-intensive, it was fragile, and it was incredibly inefficient. A ship could spend more time sitting in port being loaded than it spent at sea. And every time cargo was handled, it ran the risk of being damaged, delayed, or stolen. Global trade existed, but it moved at the pace of human muscle. Then, in the mid-20th century, something surprisingly simple changed everything: a steel box. At first glance, a cargo container doesn't seem revolutionary. It's just a rectangular metal shell, plain, uniform, unremarkable. But that box quietly transformed how the world trades goods. Before containers, shipping costs were high, not because of distance, but because of handling. Moving cargo from a factory to a warehouse, from a warehouse to a dock, from a dock onto a ship, then reversing the entire process at the destination. Every step added time, labor, and cost. The real breakthrough of the cargo container was not the box itself. It was standardization. Instead of handling goods individually, everything went into a single unit. That unit could be lifted by a crane, placed on a truck, loaded onto a ship, transferred to a train, without ever opening it. Suddenly, ports didn't need armies of dock workers carrying individual items. They needed cranes. A ship that once took days to load could now be turned around in hours. That change alone cut shipping costs dramatically, but the deeper impact came from how predictable everything became. When containers are standardized, every part of the system can be designed around them. Ships could be built specifically to hold containers. Ports could be redesigned for faster loading. Trucks and trains could be sized perfectly to carry them. This created an entirely new logistics ecosystem, and once that ecosystem existed, trade could scale in ways that were previously impossible. The cost of shipping a product across an ocean dropped so much that distance stopped being the main factor. What mattered instead was labor cost. Manufacturing no longer needed to be close to where goods were sold. Factories could move to wherever production was cheapest. Containers made it economically viable to manufacture goods on one side of the planet and sell them on the other. That's when global supply chains truly emerged. A single product could now involve raw materials from one country, assembly in another, and consumers in dozens more, all coordinated through standardized boxes moving almost invisibly across the world. This shift reshaped entire cities. Old ports designed for break-bulk cargo became obsolete. They were often located close to city centers where manual labor once made sense. Container ports needed space, flat land, rail connections, highways, so ports moved outward. Cities like New York, London, and Sydney saw their traditional docks decline, while massive container terminals grew further away. The waterfront changed, so did the jobs. Containerization reduced the need for dock labor dramatically. Where thousands of workers once handled cargo manually, a small number of crane operators could now move far more goods. This made shipping cheaper and faster. But it also disrupted entire communities built around port labor. Yet from a global perspective, the efficiency gains were undeniable. Goods became cheaper, supply became more reliable, international trade expanded at an unprecedented rate. Containers didn't just move products, they moved economic power. Countries that invested early in container infrastructure gained huge advantages. Ports that failed to adapt were left behind. Even today, global trade routes are shaped by container compatibility. A port that can't handle modern container ships simply doesn't exist in the global supply chain. The size of the container itself also mattered. Standard dimensions meant everyone agreed on the same rules. A container built in one country could move through dozens of others without modification. That agreement required cooperation between shipping companies, rail operators, port authorities, and governments. Once established, it locked in a global system that still operates today. And because the container rarely gets opened during transit, something else changed as well: security. Sealed containers reduced theft and damage. They also shifted inspection and control to specific checkpoints rather than every transfer point. This made trade faster, but it also meant that much of global commerce became invisible. Millions of containers move every year, stacked high on ships and trains, with no one knowing exactly what's inside at any given moment. The system relies on trust, documentation, and coordination. When it works, it's astonishingly efficient. When it fails, the effects ripple across the world. We see this clearly when global shipping is disrupted. A delay in one port can strand containers for weeks. A single blocked route can affect prices thousands of kilometers away. That's the flip side of efficiency. When everything is optimized, there's very little slack. But despite its vulnerabilities, containerization remains one of the most important developments in modern history. It didn't just make shipping cheaper, it reshaped economies, redefined labor, reorganized cities, and changed how nations depend on one another, all because of a box designed to be boring, uniform, and predictable. Today, when you see stacks of containers in a port or rolling past on a train, you're looking at the physical backbone of globalization. Each one is part of a vast, coordinated system that quietly moves the world's goods. No headlines, no spectacle. Just steel boxes, doing exactly what they were designed to do. Once you understand the system, it makes sense.